It showed up in September of 1966 to do battle with the Ford Mustang, but it was 1.3 million cars late in the sales race. The Mustang was selling like hotcakes because it was a fresh design with just the right amount of sportiness. Fortunately for Chevrolet, the Camaro was new from the ground up and not a rehash of the Corvair or Chevy 2. It had a unique semi-unitized body with a subframe in the front to isolate the suspension and give a good ride. A solid rear axle attached to the chassis in the rear kept the cost reasonable and maximized rear seat room. The bottom line on the car is that Chevrolet did its homework. The Camaro was an instant success right out of the box. This particular model is probably one of the most desirable of the first-generation cars of the 1967 through 69 era. It's an SSRS convertible and is loaded with an option list that is about a mile long. Some of the 27 options include power windows, headrests, air conditioning, fold-down rear seats, power top, full instrumentation, a 4-speed transmission, pause traction, a radius rod, power brakes, also a 350 engine with 4-barrel carburation, front disc brakes, and of course the RS option package, which included a redesigned grille with hideaway headlights. This SS represents an excellent investment since it has been restored to original condition. But some like the car with a little more sizzle. Either way, the 67s are a winner.
Well, I bought this car when I was 16 in high school, and I bought it for $600. And I restored the whole car pretty much to original stock. And I replaced everything, every body part on the car except for the roof and quarter panels. Everything else was all brand new. I took the whole car down to the last nut and bolt, painted the frame and everything. I have about a year into the paint job. I worked every weekend on the car except for 2 weekends that I skipped because it was raining. I've put in about $15,000 into the car. I can't really put a value on it. It'd be pretty tough for me to sell it, even if somebody offered me more than it's worth, because it's kind of special to me. It was my first car and everything. I restored it all myself. I could never get another car. I think that it was just perfect since I did everything, myself the way I wanted it.
What do you like about the Camaro?
I like this particular year of Camaro because it's racy looking when it's all, restored. And I don't really like the new ones because they just haven't got the horsepower.
For enthusiasts like Jerry Neves, Chevrolet offered horsepower figures up to 375 ponies. For enthusiasts like Merle Dupre, Chevy continued to offer a myriad of options that today make some models worth more than others.
This is a 1968 Camaro SSRS equipped with a 350 motor, power glide transmission, positive traction rear end. This was a very special ordered car, very unique in the fact that it was equipped with 26 factory options. Some of the main options include air conditioning, power windows, fold-down back seat, tack and gauges, speed warning. The car is actually even equipped with fiber optics and cruise control and a stereo 8-track player mounted on the console. This is one of my favorite little cars. It's nice to take on a nice drive or a long trip. It's not a real high-performance car. It's just a nice driver, and it's very comfortable to drive on long trips.
Merle's long relationship with Camaros qualifies him as a good investment counselor.
For people that are interested in trying to decide what type of a car would be a good car to restore and that will appreciate in value, bear in mind to buy some books, do a little reading and research, join some clubs and become knowledgeable and associate yourself with people involved with these cars to where you can get an understanding of them before you start parting with your hard-earned money. There are still a lot of good buys out there on cars. If you buy the right car equipped with a lot of nice options and the correct motors in the car, and if you restore the right car, you can make money on the car, or at least recap your investment on the car if you do it right and you restore the right car.
In racing the Camaro, Chevrolet was able to express the capabilities of the car, and in particular, the Z28 model. With Roger Penske managing the project and Mark Donohue driving, they were able to win in impressive fashion. 1968 saw the Penske team win 10 of the 13 Trans Am races held. Penske's management skills were becoming quite evident and would eventually make him one of America's biggest racing success stories. A skilled pit crew and some clever application of physics and engineering gave the team what some called the unfair advantage.
The pit stops were really a very important part of us winning the Trans Am Series. We could fuel in approximately 7 to 8 seconds, and many times picking up by a pit stop change on our competition 8 or 9 or sometimes 10 seconds. Mark would run probably 45 minutes and might come in only with a 10-second lead, so you can see the advantage of having a fast pit stop. It would save the car and a lot of pressure on Mark by doing a lightning fast stop.
Mark, your team is probably the first to use freeze-dried gasoline. What did you do to that Sunoco 260?
We calculated that by freezing the gas and reducing its temperature roughly 40 to 50 degrees, we could in fact get 23 gallons in the 22-gallon tank. And we did this by use of dry ice and acetone in a chamber that surrounded the actual gas tank, and this gave us the cooling conditions that we needed, and also gave us quite a psychological advantage on our competitors because of the tank actually forming frost on the outside due to the low temperature.
Although Donohue did not survive the intervening years, the car he piloted so well during the 1968 season has been restored to a level that Penske would be proud of. The approach taken by the team is reflected in what appears here. Present owner Tom McIntyre has gone to great lengths to keep the car as original as possible. Here, the engine is not fully assembled. It is a Traco-built 305 generating about 450 horsepower and is good for about 8,000 RPM. An air intake at the base of the windshield ducts air to the carburetors. Unique touches include a vacuum assist to speed brake pad changes, chemical dipping of body panels to lighten them, and a device that captures all 5 lug nuts, which allows them to be removed simultaneously. Even though GM was selling 250,000 Camaros a year, and big changes were planned for the 1970 model, it was decided to make substantial changes in the 1969 version. It took on a meaner, more aggressive appearance that helped it set sales records that stood until 1978. There were even more options added to the list, including several new engine choices. One of the rarest models was known as the ZL1, of which only 69 were built. It had an aluminum block 427 engine in full race trim. But perhaps even rarer is this model, an L89. Of the 11 built, it is only one of 3 or 4 survivors. The 396 engine with aluminum heads pumped out 375 horsepower. Combined with the fact that it is a convertible, this is one of the most valuable Camaros available. The 1969 racing season was again successful for the Z28 and Roger Penske. The Trans Am title stayed with Chevrolet despite the efforts of Ford and American Motors. Donahue kept this car in front enough times to establish the Z28 as America's leading performance car. The appearance of the car today reflects limited track action with its past competitors in current vintage racing events. The blue and yellow took more than its share of the black and white checkered flags during the 1969 racing season. By 1970, the pony car market was slowing down. Ford had grabbed a big piece of the pie with the Mustang over the 5 previous years, but GM was hoping the 1970 Camaro would find a new segment of the market with its sleek new looks. Had it not been for the new emission requirements and the unforeseen oil crisis, they might have pulled it off. As a result, only 125,000 Camaros were sold, half that of the previous year. Nonetheless, this was a striking car with great performance. The Z28 had a 350 engine with 360 horsepower and turbo-hydromatic transmission. It was longer, lower, and wider than the 69, but had less interior room and no air conditioning. This car was driven with the windows down and the hair blowing in the wind. No quiche eaters were allowed. Considering the oil embargo and emission requirements, the Camaro got through the 70s in good shape. Its success due mainly to its good looks and excellent handling.
The Z28 is back. Chevy Camaro Z28, with the kind of suspension you'd expect to find only under a legend. The Z28 is back. Chevy. Camaro Z28, all the performance of a 4-barrel 350 V8, a heavy-duty 4-speed manual transmission, and a performance rear axle ratio. The Camaro Z28 is back from Chevrolet.
1981 marked the end of the second-generation Camaro. A good car had become fat and lazy and was overdue for a major facelift. For the third-generation models, Chevrolet has managed to keep the Camaro's identity alive and at the same time drop 500 pounds of fat. The car remains a performance leader. Its aerodynamic efficiency is improved, and its rugged, macho appearance has been enhanced. In 1985, an extension of the Z28 became available. Known as the IROC Z, it has a completely revised suspension and extended lower trim panels that give it a more racy appearance. The third-generation cars are destined for the Hall of Fame. In the years to come, they will definitely be sought after by enthusiasts and collectors. Camaros are starring in the International Race of Champions, and they continue to race in the Trans Am series, but with little or no factory support. To see how these cars are constructed, we visited Trans Am racer Les Lindley.
The car has to use the same configuration body. It has to look like a production-based car. We use the original roof, we use the windshield, we use the original rear window, we use the Chevrolet block and heads, but beyond that we can use almost anything we want as far as a component of the car. This particular chassis right here is the original V6 chassis built by Protofab. It was ran by Wally Dolleback Jr. in 1986, which he won the championship with. We campaigned it last year, and we wound up second in the championship with the same car, that with a few minor modifications. This same chassis is being redone right now, taken down to the bare chassis and brought back up, and we will campaign the same chassis in 1988 in the Trans Am series. This particular car is strictly a V6 chassis. It runs a V6 Fisher engine which puts out about 500 horsepower, and we run a Dominator carburetor, which we are allowed to do. It's very responsive. If you ever driven a V6 car in a race configuration, you never want to go back to a V8. This particular car we call Clo is what they call a flip-flop car. It can be a V6 or a V8. With a few minor changes in the car, we can run it in a V6 configuration or a V8 configuration. This particular car we built here in our own shop and is an exact duplicate of the protofab type chassis. This particular V8 chassis uses a Fisher 310 motor, which in a carbureted version puts out about 600 to 610 horsepower. The car will weigh 25. It is a good horsepower to weight ratio. It's a better combination package than the V6, but sometimes the V6, due to the configurations of tracks, is a better car to run, and that's why we have V6s and V8s. Some tracks we like to run a V6, some tracks we like to run a V8. The V8 car on some tracks, depending upon which way you're geared, and a track like Brainerd or something like that, you could probably hit 100 and probably 170 some miles per hour at the end of the straightaway. It's a mile-long straightaway. Entering the corner, it will probably be doing that. Exiting the corner, it will probably be in the maybe 167 in the fast turn one. What's ironic about this, the V6 enters the corner at a slower rate of speed, like 170, and it'll exit the corner as faster than it entered the corner. So that is the advantage of a V6 car in a track like Brainerd. Last year we finished second in the Trans Am point standings. We had an excellent year as far as an aspirated car. We ran against turbos. We were the only aspirated car to lead any laps in the race. We were the only aspirated car to sit on the pole last year. This year, the SEC has changed the rules in regarding the turbos. They put some restrictions on the amount of gas they can carry. They also cut their intercoolers down. They changed the rear proportionate weight of the car. They also moved the restrictor closer to the turbo, and all these restrictions should slow this turbo's way down, which the aspirated car should be running right up front. It looks like it'd be an excellent year for an aspirated car.
For Lindley to be successful in his Camaro, he will need a little luck, a lot of hard work and money, and the ability to catch the turbos, all without factory support.